It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 83 today. We've been waiting all week for you. Glad that you are here to enjoy clothes-free living with us for the next hour. Enjoying naturism, nudism, clothes-free living, whatever we call it, getting back to the basics of life, enjoying life as it was intended to be lived, the joys of clothes-free living. We are together for the next hour. And on today's show, we will hear from Paul Z. Walker, he and Will Forrest and Ted Bunn, the great triumvirate of naturist anthologies, as I like to call them, have a new book coming out and they want to talk to you about it. Are you interested in writing for their anthology? Well, you'll find out how to do that in just a few moments from Paul Z. Walker. Lisa Monroe, of course, will be here with us in just a few moments right after Paul, and we will talk about a variety of things. Cannot wait to start with her. And then a little bit later in the show, part one of my interview with CYNDI TENDICK. CYNDI is the current president for the West Region for the American Association for Nude Recreation. She's also one of the managing partners for the Shangri La Ranch in Arizona. So part one of my interview with CYNDI TENDICK on today's show, and part two will be on next week's show. So come on in. The pool is fine. The hot tub is fully operational. The grill is going full bore. Fruits and vegetables off to the right, cold drinks off to the left, hot drinks and desserts inside. It's a little cooler today than usual, but we can still be clothes-free outside, get a nice suntan, the breeze on our skin. But if you need a little break, need to go inside for a little bit, you can do that. Fire up some coffee, some hot chocolate, some hot apple cider, cigar bar in the back left corner of the pool. We are here. We are here together, enjoying this hour, clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. And now let's get to an audio clip that discusses the brand new upcoming Naturist anthology from the great triumvirate of Naturist anthologies. This message from Paul Z. Walker.
Hello, Frank, and all listeners to this magnificent podcast. Here is Paul Z. Walker again, bringing you amazing news. After lying low for a while, the naturist fiction triumvirate, being the Honorable Ted Bunn, the wise Will Forrest, and also myself, have decided to give in to many requests from authors. Really, not reader folk, but writer folk. It took us some time to come up with something original, but we managed it again. And let no one say anything else or else. The title of the new anthology is Bare Skies Ahead, with the subtitle A Collection of Naturist Fantasy and Science Fiction Short Stories. As usual, this will be a charity anthology in support of Médecins Sans Frontières, or not in French, Doctors Without Borders. As we're kicking this off, we're going to send an email to all previous contributors, inviting them to let us know if they want to be a part of this publication as well. A declaration of intent is enough for now, and we would like to have them in by January 10th of 2025, but as a special exception for listeners to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, we will extend the closing date for expressions of interest to the end of January. So this means January 31st for everyone listening now. The intent messages can be sent to submissions@tvhost.co.uk. And let me repeat that. If you want to write a story for this new anthology, please let us know in time via email and write to submissions@tvhost.co.uk. So that is .co and not .com, followed by .uk. Stories don't have to be with us until the 1st of April 2025, so the writers have plenty of time to get their ideas into a decent shape. What we are looking for this time is very open and inviting to those who want to throw open the doors of their imagination. Anyone is free to create their own world, invent technologies or magic, and change whatever you like the laws of physics, the laws of society, the laws of whatever you can think of. Just take it anywhere your mind wants to go, as long as it's in some way credible. Also, there are no rules for population. Make it with or without gender, species, smart shades of blue, orange, rainbow colored, whatever. Invent 5 genders, 10 genders, 0 genders. Something, make it. There's just one rule. Your story must contain identifiable nudists or naturists. Whether they are the heroes or the villains, your story must reflect the values of nudism and naturism. Also, stories, as usual, should be between 1,000 and 5,000 words. As I said, the submissions close at April of 2025, so that's when we want to have the stories in. Thank you again, Frank, for the opportunity of letting the world know about this new publication we're going to do. And we'll speak again. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
And there you go, the very terrific Paul Z. Walker, naturism fiction author. You can find their website, naturistfiction.org. He works with Will Forrest and Ted Bunn, the great triumvirate of naturist anthologies. They do great work, so check them out. And if you're interested, and let them know that you are interested in writing for the next anthology. Well, you are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 83 today, and I think I hear some music that can only mean one thing. It's time for the great, the terrific, the fully clothes-free, fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one and only, the completely over-the-top, fully clothes-free, and completely smiling as well, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing terrific. How about you this morning?
Not bad at all. Just curious how you're dealing. You know, it's winter north of the equator. It's winter.
Mm-hmm.
A little chilly here, not the bitter cold that we once experienced in our lives. 0 degrees, 10 degrees Fahrenheit with snow and ice, but still a little chilly, but not overwhelmingly so. I can still get outside clothes-free for part of the day, certainly not all day. How about yourself? I know I don't like the cold. You really don't like the cold, but are you doing okay? Naked body-wise, I guess is the question.
Well, let's just put it this way. I don't spend a lot of time outdoors naked at the moment because it's too freaking cold.
Yeah.
I actually have a sweatshirt that says it's too freaking cold on it. So I drag it out on these kind of days, but if I have to go somewhere. But no, I've told you before. If it gets under 80, I'm freezing. So
Yeah.
I'm the person when it's 100 degrees outside takes a sweater to go out to dinner, because it's cold in the restaurant. So yeah, I don't like it, but the good thing about it here is it doesn't last too terribly long, and there's no snow and ice.
That two very big things. And you once told me, I forgot exactly the words, but your dad wanted to start driving south, and the first store he found that did not sell a snow shovel, that's where he would
Well,
start, something like that.
yeah, it was something like that. Actually, what
Yeah.
he said was that he was going to get on I-75 and drive south with or walk south with a snow shovel on his shoulder. And the first person that asked him what that was, he was going to stop.
I will tell you, I almost probably shouldn't say this because I don't want to make anybody mad. I used to live in a very cold climate. In beautiful summers, decent springs, really beautiful falls, really cold winters.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally made the big move once and for all to Florida, I had to clean out the garage, had to clean out everything.
Mm-hmm.
I took actual joy and pleasure with dumping my snow shovels.
Yes.
Thought, I'll never need these babies again.
Yes.
Now watch, something will happen tomorrow. I have to sell the house and move back, but for a brief shining moment, I don't own a snow shovel at all, and I am not complaining. How about that?
Oh, I think those things are useless pieces of equipment, and you just have to kind of deal with them if you're in that
Yeah.
particular situation. I just, oh, no, I'm just not into that at all.
Yeah, but having said that, I owned a snow shovel, multiple of them,
Yeah.
and when you get out there and shovel the snow, you just feel better about life. Now you're not clothes free, at least I wasn't. When you're done, it's like that was a great workout. I feel like $1,000,000. You take a hot shower, you fire up the hot chocolate, so all is not lost. It's actually a pretty good life to lead. It's just if given a choice of doing a snow angel
Hmm.
or sitting at the beach with a glass of iced tea, I'm going to opt for the beach, and I'm guessing you're the same.
Absolutely. And I grew up going to the beach. So
Yeah,
for me,
right.
that was natural,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
where I lived in the South, my parents had a beach house. We went to the beach all the time. So for me, the sand dunes are my snow piles. And I kind of like that a lot better. And it would
Oh
get
yeah,
cold there too. Because I
yeah.
remember going in the winter sometimes and you'd have to bundle up in almost a winter like jacket to walk the beach. But
Hmm.
it was still not no snow, no ice. I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a point where you get used to it, and I was used to it for most of my life. But as I got a little older, approaching 27 years old, as we claim to be, it's like this is getting a little too cold. But at the same time, I enjoyed that too. So wherever you live, just get out there and enjoy life and make the best of it. And I shoveled snow for multiple years, enjoyed it. Sometimes I didn't look forward to putting on the hat, the gloves, the boots. I thought this is a bunch of nonsense. But once you get out there, it's actually kind of fun. So we understand both ends of it.
We do. And I had a friend once who told me, she said, I hate people complaining about where they live. She said, if you don't like where you live, move.
Hmm.
Th- But as long as you're living there, you need to make that your home. So
Oh yeah.
you embrace what your circumstances are. And I will say this, there's nothing more beautiful than that moment when the snow's falling and everything's covered and you step outside and there's nothing but silence.
Hmm.
And so it is
Hmm.
beautiful, but you know
Yeah.
what? I've seen it. I'm done.
Okay. Well, that sounds good to me. Well, we want to mention Patreon. We do have a Patreon page. We've said it 5 gazillion times now. We are turning down paid work to do this show for free, so we're asking for your help and support to keep this whole thing going and get the attorney and CPA off our back who yell at us every single week. They haven't been yelling as much recently. Have you noticed that in
No,
meetings?
because we're doing as we were told.
Right.
So they're happy with us at the moment.
Yeah. Well, 10% happy. They still want more, but
Wow.
you have a couple of new patrons you'd like to thank. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. We have Emmanuel. And by the way, Emmanuel got so into this that he actually upgraded his membership from his original. So
Yeah.
we really appreciate that and hope that that means he's seen the value in what we're trying to do on Patreon
Hmm.
and what we're trying to do to reach out to our listeners. And
Hmm.
then we have Alex
Hmm.
along too. So we thank them both very, very much for joining.
Yeah, very much so. And we announced the people in the order in which they signed up. So if you have given and say, hey, wait a second, they haven't mentioned my name. Well, we will in the order in which it came up. So hang in there. I hadn't thought about it only because I hadn't thought about it, not because it's such a difficult concept, but you sign up to be a patron at whatever level. You can always upgrade that because you get more with each level. You get more from us the higher the level you go. So we thank you, Emmanuel, for basically bringing that to my attention. It's an obvious concept. I just hadn't consciously thought of it. And we have a number of people who sign up for free to be free members, and you can upgrade as well, right?
They certainly can. And
Yeah.
we appreciate them too because that just gives them another outlet for finding out information about the show and learning what's coming up and everything. So we're happy to have everyone who's joined us there, whether they are subscribers or they're just there for, to see the post and to participate.
Yeah, very much so. Anything happening with merchandise other than flying off the shelves? Hard to keep it in stock, but take it from there. What's going on?
And we're pretty much set right now for all of the merchandise we have, but I will say this: the caps seem to be quite popular. So, and they're really cute. So, and they come in a whole bunch of different colors. That's the real cool thing. There's a lot of colors, so you don't have to just get white with the logo on it. You can get blue with the logo or red with the logo or whatever your favorite color shirt is. So there's a lot of choices. So we try to give people the opportunity to wear something that they not only like and also promote a show that they like.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days we ought to have not a contest, but just a little bit of fun and people post photos of themselves holding a naked nudist and naturist mug or wearing their NNN hat, whatever they choose.
That would be
Whether they
fun.
show their face or not, that's up to them. But that'd be kind of fun, and maybe we'll do that down the road. How's that for an
Yeah, that
idea?
sounds like a very good idea, and because I think people are having fun with the caps
Yeah,
and those and t-shirts are going, and so life is good. Yes,
yeah,
I hope they enjoy this. That's there for them to be able to promote a show that they enjoy.
that's right. And as you heard a few minutes before you came on, Paul Z. Walker sent us that audio clip and what I call the group, the Great Triumvirate of Naturism Anthologies. That's my official name for them. Paul Z. Walker, Ted Bunn, Will Forrest. They put out the announcement for a new anthology coming up. And the original date for submissions, not submissions, but to let them know, yeah, I'm thinking about it and I'm probably going to submit something, was January 10th. But for our show, since I said, we can't get it on until January 25th, which is today, they're allowing till January 31st if you're hearing this show. And so you still have some time. And right now, the only thing you have to do is send an email in saying, I'm interested. I'm going to work on this. I'm probably going to do it. And the actual submission of your document isn't due for a few months. So, how about that? Another anthology coming out on naturism from the Great Triumvirate. Pretty exciting news.
The great triumvirate gurus of naturist anthologies, and they put out some excellent anthologies. I think it's fabulous because again, it also, that's another piece of the puzzle that someone else who's outside of naturism can read and perhaps, say, "Oh, I'm interested in this. Well, this sounds good. Look at these stories." And so I think it's wonderful, and it's a great outlet for creative people within the naturism world too. Because sometimes you can't write what you want to write if you're writing for a public consumption.
Right.
So, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and the fact that there'll be multiple authors involved, you'll have multiple outlooks on naturism and uh, different takes from different people around the world. So I'm looking forward to it. And I don't know what the publication date is. If they said that, I just didn't write it down, but I'm guessing sometime this year. And it's kind of exciting news from the
It
Great
is.
Triumvirate. How about that?
It is good, and it's also a consistency on their part that they are, continuing to bring this kind of publication to the naturism community to kind of rounds out things. We have magazines, we have podcasts, we have things. So this is also a way for the community to come together and enjoy some good stories. And there are some excellent stories in these books.
Absolutely. I wanted to get into something we talked about a little last week. People have asked this question, multiple people have asked this question. How in the name of whatever can we just keep coming out there every single blasted Saturday with a 1 hour show? Because as you look around podcast land, not just in naturism, but all over the place, that's rare. It doesn't happen a whole lot. Most of it's sporadic and, 4 or 5 shows a year, maybe 8 shows a year. Here's a show today. Here's another one in 7 weeks. Oops, it's going to be 3 months before they get the next one. Yet we're out there every week for now 83 straight weeks with a 1 hour show, not 5 or 10 minutes here and oops, too busy, got to go, but the full 60 minutes. And so I want to get into a couple of things. I'll just mention these as my own ideas, Lisa. And if you want to agree or disagree or add on or take away, you can feel free to do so. And it doesn't have anything to do directly with naturism, but kind of sort of does because we're talking about a naturism show.
Exactly.
And I believe, and I know that you believe too, probably because we had terrific parents and probably because of the training we received and the careers we've led, no excuses are allowed. There are no excuses. The moment you make an excuse is the moment that you lose. That's the overriding philosophy here. People will say, well, I was going to do that, but I got too busy. My dog needed to go to the vet. It rained that day. My third uncle's sixth cousin removed, best friends, sister from Moscow wanted to talk to me on the phone. Those are all excuses. And so we make the priority here to have a 1 hour show every week. Now, there's lots that goes into that. It's not just, let's do a 1 hour show, kids, and then it magically happens. No, there's a lot that goes into it. But we will not get to the point, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on a Saturday, where we don't have a 1 hour show for you because I was going to, but this Netflix thing came on, or, kids this, wife this, husband that, whatever, it prevented me from doing so. Now, that is different than a reason. Sometimes there are reasons in life you don't get things done. For example, if I walk out of my house today and get rolled over by a bus, we're probably not going to have a show next week. But the reason will be, Frank's laid up in the hospital and he's completely out of it on various medications and undergoing major surgeries. Not going to be a show today. That's not an excuse. That's a reason. If we don't have a show next week, episode 84 doesn't come to fruition, and I say, well, the sun got in my eyes, the dog ate it, I slept in, oops, the alarm clock didn't work yet again for the 200th straight day. Those are excuses. And what I always remind myself, the moment you make an excuse is the moment you lose. Not just in this podcast, but that's my philosophy for life. It's how I live my life. Not that anybody asked for all of that. But they do ask, how do we get a 1 hour show every week? Well, now you have your answer. There are no excuses. There's no, oops, didn't get it done. Sorry, let's try again next week, kids. No, we're going to do this because excuses are not allowed. Any thoughts on that? Feel free to agree, disagree, take away, add your take.
I agree 100% because, I was once in the clinical medical world and also in a research situation. Yeah, it didn't matter if I was sick, I had to be where I needed to be at that moment. If I was
Mhm.
running tests, I better be there when that test was ready to be read. I better be there when the research data needed to be collected. It didn't matter if I was sick or not. And if I was going to take a vacation or whatever, I prepared around that event to make sure that I wasn't going to be lax in doing what I was going to do. And I think it's again, kind of, we look at this perhaps differently than some people. This is we said we're doing a show a week. So we were committed to doing a show a week.
Mhm.
And that's what we accomplish because that's what we expect. And so I agree. There are reasons and valid reasons for people not to be able to accomplish something. But just to say my dog ate the homework is an excuse and it's not going to work.
No. And, the trick to doing your homework is get it done early enough
Hmm.
and put it somewhere safely where the dog can't get it, like on the highest shelf you have in your house. That removes that as an excuse. And that's a big part of it, too, is the prevention. I talked about walking out and stepping in front of a bus.
Hmm.
Well, I have a personal feeling that I have an obligation to our listeners. They're going to want episode 84 next week. So I have to be careful I don't step in front of a bus. Now, that might seem like oversimplifying. It also might seem like, wow, he goes to great lengths to avoid not having, having a weekend with no show. Well, you're right on both counts. Because if you make a commitment, you make a promise, you have to honor it. And Lisa and I don't allow excuses for ourselves, but they're also just not allowed here in the office or the studio at all. And everybody knows that. It's not a big deal in terms of, wow, I can't get away with anything. It's, no, we have a job to do. Here's the deadline. Boom, it's done. Any questions? And we go on from there. So that might be the simple answer is we don't allow for excuses. We promise a 1 hour show every week. We know how to do it. We know how much time it takes for the interviewing, the editing, the processing, the post producing, everything. And so we get it done. And we've never come at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern time on a Saturday and say, you won't believe this. The sun got in my eyes. The dog ate it. And my mother's father's sisters, uncles, cats, dog, a horse wanted to go see a movie. So just didn't get done this week. And I went to college with this guy. Again, that's like almost 300 years ago now. And almost every time he'd show up for a class, And I say, name was Joe. Hey, Joe, how'd you do on it? He goes, I didn't get it done. He goes, I got so busy. Doing stuff. I didn't get it done. That, well, I don't know what you're doing that's so busy you don't get your homework done because you're going to bomb out of college. You realize that. And he did fail some classes. And I think he eventually graduated. I kind of lost contact with him. But the moment you make an excuse is the moment you lose. So my suggestion, my advice, if you're asking, not that anybody did, actually.
Oh, they didn't?
I want to know how we got this show done. But it's my personal, it works for me.
Yeah.
Is no excuses. The moment you make an excuse is the moment you lose. So don't do it. Any final thought?
Yeah, I agree with you. And, there are people out there who may have not looked at the world the same way we have over the years, may have not had the life experiences that we've had. And so that may not be as important to them as it is to us. But it is the reason that we're able to do this every week is because we took on a commitment and we have a sense of responsibility. And so we're doing it. And should we ever not do it, there will be a valid reason. There will be no excuse.
Right. And I've mentioned before, there will come a day where, just because how life unfolds in a general pattern, there will come a day where we won't have a show for you because something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Not because the dog ate or the sun got in our eyes. It's because there was a medical emergency or the internet went out or things that we really can't prevent. You can't prevent them. Well, I shouldn't say you can't prevent a medical emergency, but some you cannot prevent, especially if it's an older relative. Things
Exactly.
happen as people get older. And if something happens to somebody in my family who's older, I'll have to depart from here and fly where he or she is. And who knows how long I'll be gone. Could be 1 or 2 days, could be a month. Who knows? And so, but those will be reasons, not excuses. And everybody will know those up front. So we promise a 1 hour show every single week. We deliver a 1 hour show every single week. And now you know how we do it without getting into the nitty gritty and the nuances of putting a radio show together. That's a whole different show completely. But we don't allow for excuses because, again, maybe we should just put this on our masthead. When you make an excuse, you lose. Agreed.
I agreed 100%.
All right. Okay.
I've
All
learned not
right.
to agree. And I've learned not to not agree. Let's put it that way.
That's okay. Disagreements are allowed here. It's just I'm strictly speaking personally.
Yeah.
And what I do personally, what I do,
agree.
Even in business. That's how we run the studio
Mm-hmm.
because it's an extension of me. So I guess when I say personally, it's also personally, if you work here too, it's got to affect you. But we only hire people like that.
Yeah,
We don't bring in people who make 1,000 excuses and we have to tell them to knock it off. No, they don't. They know the score coming in. It just makes life better.
Jennifer has things done before we even say, Jennifer, this needs to be done. It's like here. And so, when you have responsive people like that who have a sense of responsibility, then that makes things work better and allows us to do what we do. And we're appreciative of the fact that people are listening every week too.
Yes, very much so. That's why we keep doing this. And we appreciate everybody out there. Keep our Patreon page in mind. Check out our website. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Twitter. You can email us. We're here for you. And Lisa Monroe, with that, let's head for the hills. Let's do it again next week. But until then, have a great close-free week. We'll see you next time.
You too, Frank. Have a wonderful close-free week. And so to everyone out there, the same. And y'all have a great time.
Sounds good.
Bye.
The very terrific Lisa Monroe. Did she just say y'all have a great week? I'm beginning to think that she is from the South. We'll check on that soon. She did not hear that, but she will later on, and I'll probably pay the price for it down the road, but it was worth the price of admission. We're just having fun around here. Lisa Monroe comes in for these segments, does our website work, our Patreon work, our memes on Thursday, and we appreciate all that she does, a terrific Lisa Monroe. Just a reminder, we are the official podcast for the American Association for Nude Recreation. Are you a member? If so, great. But if not, you can become one within moments. Just go to AANR.com, follow the navigation, and within moments, you will become a member of the American Association for Nude Recreation, just as Lisa Monroe and I are full-fledged members. We'd like to welcome you to the club. How about that for a deal? Well, again, you are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 83 today. We thank you for being with us. We always look forward to this time together, and we appreciate you listening very much. And now let's get to part one of my interview with CYNDI TENDICK. She is one of the managing partners for the Shangri La Ranch in Arizona, but she's also currently the president for the West Region for the American Association for Nude Recreation. Part one with CYNDI TENDICK. We are headed out to Arizona today. We're going to bring back a lady who was on us earlier in 2024. She is one of the managing partners of the Shangri La Ranch in Arizona. She's also the current president for the West Region for the American Association for Nude Recreation. So let's welcome back to the show from Arizona and the Shangri La Ranch, CYNDI TENDICK. Good morning, CYNDI. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Not bad. Good to have you back here for the full interview. We enjoyed the first one so much. It was supposed to be about a 10-minute interview. I think it turned into 20, and we could have gone on 6 hours, but we had to cut it at some point. So I'm glad you're back today. Everything going well for you and the ranch?
It is, absolutely. It's a little cooler out here this time of year, but hey, that's all right. We're still moving along, and it brings up the age-old question that everybody always asks. Well, what do you guys do when it gets cold? Well, we're nudists, but we're not stupid. If we're cold, we put clothes on. So, bonfires are super popular this time of year too. So a lot of indoor activities. The pool's heated, so hey, jump on in there. Unless you're into that healthcare cold plunge shenanigans, we can handle that too.
Well, I saw on your website you keep the pool at a reasonable temperature all year long. So anytime they dive in any month of the year, it's pretty comfortable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we strive for out here.
Absolutely. Well, how did you guys make it through the holidays? I know you had a lot of celebrations. You had some Christmas stuff going on. You had a big New Year's party too, right?
Oh yeah, New Year's is always a big thing. It's one of our biggest holidays. People just like to be here. It's a fun environment, and whenever we get a chance to, we like to showcase that. And the past few years we have actually had to cap the number of people that we can allow to some of our parties. New Year's is one of them. Halloween's another. So it's just getting through that busy time of year, but everybody had a great time. Wonderful to see friends, new and old, and just connect and celebrate the new year coming in.
Yeah, very much so. Any major differences between, let's say, a Christmas party at the Shangri La Ranch as opposed to the Halloween party? I'm guessing probably so, but anything that strikes you as different?
Not particularly. Halloween for some reason, and it's not just here, from what I understand, it's kind of across the nudist community. Halloween seems to be the biggest, like, people love it. They want the ability to dress up. And I think that kind of goes into that whole idea of when we're in this environment, you are who you are, and there's no dressing up, there's no front. And so when you do have the opportunity to kind of break out of that mold, so to speak, which is funny to say, like, naturism and nudism in and of itself is already breaking the mold. And then you talk about us wanting to be a little bit different. It's a bit of a juxtaposition, so to speak. But hey, like I said, everybody's just here to have a good time, celebrate, and get dressed up, ironically.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Is the big difference is Halloween, even nudist naturists say, hey, where's a costume I can put on?
Right.
But then later probably comes off as the night continues on. But it's just kind of a fun thing to do. And you had your Christmas party. You have some Christmas dances I saw. And obviously the New Year's party. Now we're into 2025 and probably another big year for the Shangri La Ranch, right?
Yeah, we're hoping so. We've got a couple of pretty big projects we're working on, infrastructure wise. We just wrapped up a really massive water infrastructure update. We are like a lot of other resorts. We're in a rural area. I mean, we've got a Walmart 15 minutes from us, so we're not like totally out in the boonies, but we're not connected to any kind of city or municipality kind of resources. So, and when I say that, I'm talking like water, sewer. Obviously we have electric, but water and sewer are a big thing, and it's something that a lot of people don't really think about. So we are on about 50 acres, and we get all of our water from the ground. We have about 5 wells that we pull from. Well, when you've got 160 sites, 100 people living here full time, they've got to have water. And then when they use
Yeah.
that water's got to go somewhere. So, thankfully, my
Yeah.
grandfather had foresight several years ago. He was a master plumber from the Chicago area and did plumbing for, like I said, schools, municipalities, that sort of thing. So when they came out here and there was no infrastructure, he had the foresight to put in, our own wastewater treatment plant. And so that's been running and operating for about 22 years. So that allows us to treat all of our water that we use, on the waste side. And then, like I said, it goes through that process and it gets treated. And then we get to use it for irrigation, which helps. We've got, a plant down here that's pretty drought tolerant, but can also absorb a lot of water. So we use a lot of our treated surface water to water those. They grow really big and they make a really nice kind of barrier fence around the entire property, which is nice. So we're able to use those natural resources. But in order to get it there, we had to get it from the ground to begin with. So we've been working probably about, oh man, I want to say about 4 years now, 4.5 years now. Because
Oh,
we do serve water to the public, as a community, we are subject to, certain regulations that run through the city, the county, the state. Water out here in Arizona, it's a commodity, and they treat it as such, and therefore it's held to some regulations. And please do not get me wrong, nobody call the state and say they were giving us bad water for 20 years. We weren't. Everything was always above par. It's just we had, inherited some pretty old equipment, and we had kind of been trying to limp it along for a while. And due to the relationships, the positive relationships that we have with the county, the state, and the people, the regulatory agencies that we have to work with, a few years ago said, hey, we've got some funding available and we'd like to see if you guys would be interested in benefiting from that. We said, yeah, absolutely. And came with a whole bunch of engineering and, processing, testing. And they basically said, we got what you guys are doing and we want to help you do it better. So gave us
oh,
access to a bunch of funding. And they did some what they call pilot testing. So they were testing out new materials to treat, water. And so because we said, yeah, we'd be happy to do that for you, and our water compositions and everything matched up with what they were trying to get, we were able to help them with some of their testing. And in turn, we, get to keep the equipment and everything that they used, and are now, like I said, just finishing up a pretty massive water infrastructure, upgrade. So that was, greater portion of the past 3 or 4 years. Now we're going to continue with some infrastructure updates and work on some power. Shangri La Ranch has been here since 1959 was the original
mhm.
opening date. And some of the original electric is still in place. And so you can only imagine electric from 60 years ago is not what it is today. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the next phase that we're moving into, talking about, 2025 goals and where things are at. Thankfully, we were able to go through the water upgrade with minimal disruption to any kind of day-to-day operations. And we're hoping to continue that same thing with this power upgrade that we're looking at doing. But it's funny, those are a couple of things that people don't think about sometimes when they think about what goes into it. They just come up to the gate opens, they get to come in, jump in the pool. There's not really a thought for what heats this pool, how, oh, here, let me go get a drink of water, let me flush a toilet. There's really not a lot of thought to it, and that's okay. That's cool, because that's what we want. We want people to be able to come here and not think about those things. But because
Right.
people aren't thinking about those things, we have to think about them. So, but again,
Right.
that's what we do. I love it. I love thinking about those little things and being able to tackle those little challenges and go through some things here and there, and do a lot of that behind the scenes stuff that most folks don't think about or see.
Well, yeah. And if you did not take those things seriously, then the good things, the fun things that the customers like would go by the wayside as well, right? And then they just wouldn't show up anymore or not as frequently.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
There is a certain standard that, we like to hold ourselves to and be able to provide that clean, reliable environment. Like I said, when folks come through the gate, we want them to know that they're number one, that they're safe, that they're accepted, and that they don't have to think about things for a little while. We put that on ourselves, and that's what we're here to do.
That's it. I was running this one particular company once, and we had this big, beautiful neon, multicolored sign that we've been wanting to buy, and set money aside each year. We finally got the money. It's like, oh, this is going to be great. People will drive by. I was on the expressway, off the expressway. They would see this sign, and business would, quadruple, at least in our brains. And a few weeks before we ordered the sign, we somebody discovered a massive roof issue. Well, all of the sign money went to the roof. I thought, well, son of a gun, nobody cares about a roof, with what we were doing. But if the roof had caved in, there'd be no business. So it's like, well, you just have to do what you have to do to keep the thing going and keep it in great working order for when people do show up, right?
Right, right, right. I mean, very
Mm.
true. And it's funny that you say that because, a sign is something that's visible, and a
Yeah.
roof, yeah, although it's visible, it's probably a lot of people won't come in here and be like, "Oh, that's a nice roof, Frank. You got a nice roof there, you know." They don't that's not really something that
Yeah.
people think about. And so sometimes you do have to make those decisions about, no, we've got to allocate it for this because if a toilet doesn't flush, that's definitely something somebody's going to pay attention to. So it's all a matter of balancing the priorities and making sure the environment stays good and safe for everybody.
You got it. I do want to dive in a little more to the Shangri La Ranch, but let's save that for a moment. And I want to get into the American Association for Nude Recreation West Region. We'll save that for a moment because I want to ask you this question. As one of the managing partners of Shangri La Ranch, probably know as much or more about nudism, naturism, clothes free living than most people out there. And there are also, I don't know how many clubs there are, nudist clubs, naturist clubs, a lot, but there are certain ones that seem to get a lot of recognition. And I'm guessing it's because they go over, above, and beyond what other clubs do. And they just put themselves out there. They market, they spend the money, they put a new roof on, they fix the toilet, things like that. And Shangri La Ranch is definitely one of those places. Even before we started doing the podcast, and we're in Florida, a long way from Arizona, we heard about the Shangri La Ranch a lot. Like, this must be one amazing place. So, because it is such an amazing place, and because you're one of the managing partners, I feel comfortable asking you this question because you'll probably know the answer. What is the whole big deal with naturism, nudism, clothes free living for all the right reasons? Why does it work? Why is it so wonderful? And why does it bring joy to everybody who is in the philosophy? And I told you before we started, I've never met anybody who they tried it, took their clothes off, hung out in the sun for a while, and said, "Nah, it's not for me. I'm going to have my clothes on the rest of my life." I've never met that person. It's always, "Wow, why didn't I do this 20 years ago, 100 years ago, or what?" So, CYNDI TENDICK, president, AANR West, also one of the managing partners of Shangri La Ranch. Why does this work so blasted well for people who try it?
It's the people. I
Mm.
say it all day, every day. I get folks that come in the office and they go exactly like you just said. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. I don't know why I was so worried about coming here and taking my clothes off in front of people. When you remove your clothes, you are the purest form of yourself that you can be. And you
Mm.
see that in other people as well. Nobody's trying to put up a front. You don't have a bunch of lawyers in front of you trying to compare who's got the better Armani suit or who got, closed out this deal or that.
Yeah.
That has all, even if that's what they do on a daily basis. And I don't fault anybody if that's your life. Like, hey, cool. Everything makes the world go round. But when you're
Right.
here and you don't have all of that, you don't have the pressure, you don't have the focus of trying to be the bigger person or be the best person. You just are who you are. People see that in themselves when normally they don't get that opportunity to. They see it in others and it brings them out in themselves. Nobody's here to judge, nobody's here to point, to stare, to No, you, everybody is who they are, and it's accepted, it's encouraged, that's why I think nudism works, is because it takes away a lot of the pressures, whether they're societal pressures, socioeconomic, anything to that effect, those all go away for some reason, and I'm sure there are groups out there that say the same thing about themselves, but I haven't
Yeah.
really experienced that before. There's also a greater sense, to me, there's a greater sense of community, because people, like I say, they're not trying to be pretentious, they're not trying to one up each other. They're just, everybody is who they are in their purest, most simplest form. And I think, this is just me. My husband will tell you that this is my naive brain. But this is the way that I view people in the world. I think everybody is a good person. And from that, they want to help other people. And I think that is within everybody's core. We are human beings, and we're all here to not necessarily get along with every single person that we encounter, but at least offer the opportunity. And I think being naked, you get that on a greater level, on a deeper level. But we do a lot of community outreach, and then there's a lot of inward community here. And you'll find that not just here at Shangri La, but any club that I go to across the country. You are all the same. You have everybody, every single person ends up with this common bond. And this common bond is that they have the ability to see other people for who they truly and purely are, how they are, as nature intended. And when you experience that and you're in that kind of environment, it just makes you want to, at least for me, it makes you want to continue to be a better person, no matter how you can do it or what you do. People, even when people leave, I like to think that they go out in the world and they make it better, because they have that renewed sense of a recharge or a connection. And that's what I feel makes people tick and makes you go around. Everybody wants to find that connection, and we provide that, whether it's here or whether that's going to another club halfway across the country or in another country. And, we thankfully have the opportunity to do all of that.
Well, it makes perfect sense. And that's why I asked you, because I knew that you would have the answer. And I remember 273 years ago when I was in college getting my first bachelor's, at least that long ago. And I was studying music with a major symphony orchestra, and the pressure was intensive. It was 10, 12, 14, 16 hours of practice a day. Oh, plus going to classes and doing homework and research. It was crazy. And I was sailing like every week. The instructor from major symphony would give me work to do for the next week. And I'd come in the next week and nail it. He'd go, whoa, that was great. Okay, here's some, whatever. Next week, great. And then one week, about 2 years in, I fell apart. I was, working in the practice room, working at home, and it just wasn't happening. And so I went to the lesson the next week, and he goes, okay, let's play your first piece. So I played it, and it wasn't very good. And he said, well, that was interesting. How about the next piece? And okay, and I'm under the gun now because I realized I couldn't pull this off, and I didn't. And he said, well, that kind of reminds me of the first piece. How about the third one? Let's see if that's any good. And he wasn't nice about it. This is like one of those moments, my career might be ending right before my eyes. And I played it, and it wasn't very good. And he said, okay, so what the heck happened? He goes, 2 years, week after week, A++, and now we have an F-. And I said, I don't know. I worked just as hard this week as I always have, and it didn't happen. He said, well, I know the answer. My teacher said. And he went to his file cabinet, pulled out a beginner's book in music. I mean, raw beginner, like fourth grade.
Yeah.
And he said, here, play the first exercise on page 1. And I said, are you serious? And he very loudly and not nicely said, yes, I am very serious. Play it. And I did. It's like so simple. You could do it in your sleep. And we did this for about 5 minutes, and I'm just embarrassed. I'm just embarrassed. I'm playing little simple exercises. And then he said, do you have any idea why I just did that? And I said, no, I really don't. And he said, because you've lost your way. You've gotten away from the basics of music, the basics of life. You're just striving. And he said, and it stayed with me, kind of goes with naturism, sometimes you have to just, no pun intended, really no pun intended, strip it down to its core, its bare minimum, what is important, and then focus on that. Big part of naturism, isn't it? You're just, you
A
even said,
hundred
yeah,
percent. Yeah. You
yeah,
just, you take it all away. And then there's also that other factor about being out in nature and getting the sun and the fresh air, and
yeah,
how
yeah,
that is so beneficial to somebody's health. Going back to COVID, that was a hard time for a lot of people. And we took, out here, we were pretty open, and we gave people the opportunity to get outside and enjoy the fresh air, and if they wanted to socialize, that was their choice. If they wanted to be, away from people, that was their choice too. Thankfully, us and a lot of other places have that opportunity. There is a deep connection to nature and the land, going back talking about resources, and whatnot. There's that. It's just, it comes down to, like you say, the basics, the bare necessities, again, pun
yeah,
intended. um and being able to just make those connections quicker and on a deeper level, because there's no other pressures or anything to that point. When you lose your way and you get back to the basics, there you go. I think we just came up with a whole new thing, you and I here, Frank. We've got it. Anytime anybody's got a problem, hey, excuse me, boss, I gotta go. Let me go strip it all down, and then I'll come back and everything will be great.
Well, and most of the time it is
Yeah.
great when you do
Yeah.
that. I had this, I was negotiating these multi-million dollar contracts, and I was the chief negotiator. And they had three or four people. I had three or four people, but I was the one doing the talking, and another guy was doing the talking for them. And it was contentious and it wasn't friendly. I'm usually in friendly situations. You're probably thinking I'm not, because I've just given you two examples where I wasn't. And it's just, we weren't getting anywhere. They're citing research and philosophy, none of which matters. Like, can we just get this settled? And for about 2 weeks, it went on and on and on, never got anything done. So I called the other chief negotiator at home. I said, any chance of meeting me for coffee tomorrow morning? And he said, well, yeah, but why? And I said, I want to talk to you about something. So we got there, literally ordered coffee. And he said, okay, so what's up? And I said, here's what I need. And I gave him a list of two or three things. I said, you tell me what you need. And he looked at me, he goes, well, okay, we need this, that, and the other thing. I said, can we just get this done today then? Instead of, all this nonsense and pontificating. And he said, yeah, because I didn't realize it was that easy. And that wasn't really a technique of mine. It's just I was trying something and I realized that it worked. So I've used it every time since. Just take it easy, relax, take your clothes off, get out in the sun, walk around Shangri La Ranch, and all of a sudden you feel relaxed and full of joy, don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Like you said, I haven't come across, I have come across a couple of people that come out and they go, well, I'm not really sure if this is my jam, but I'm here to give it the opportunity. And
Yeah.
they do, and they come back and they're not quite sure about it. Majority of folks, I will say, and when I say majority, I'm talking 99% of folks have the same experience that you do. Why didn't I do this sooner? I've needed this my entire life. I wish I was here 20 years ago, that sort of thing. But we do occasionally get the people that will come in and kind of have the opposite experience. But I give them kudos for at least trying it.
Right.
How many people out there are so close-minded that they don't even give it the opportunity? I'd rather have somebody give it the opportunity and say, not my jam, than somebody be
Mhm.
completely and totally shut out from it, not have the experience at all, and have the questions and the prejudgments and the anything else that they may have in their minds. I think those that do try it, even if it's not for them, obviously we hope that it is, and most of the time it really truly is. But we have come across a few people that are like, it's just not my thing. And a lot of the times, sometimes you'll get into it with them about, well, why do you experience that? And for some people, it's very personal. They've had previous trauma in their life, and they
Right.
say,
Yeah.
this brings that back quite a bit. And I don't want to, revisit that part. But again, they tried. And to me, that's a
Yeah.
bigger step in the right direction than somebody that will not even consider it or give the opportunity a chance.
Yeah. And as a slight addendum, I'm thinking of two people in particular, not related to each other, two different situations. Same experience. They tried it. I don't know about this. Well, okay. We talked about it and they went on their way. And then they tried it at home. They started walking around their home clothes free. And then they went swimming in their backyard clothes free. And they called me up at some point. "Hey, I'm going to try this again." And both
Right.
of them did. And the second time around, it's like, okay, now I get it. So maybe have you had that experience where people said, not my jam, as you said, but then later discovered, this isn't too bad at all? Anything like that?
Yeah, we have had those
Yeah.
experiences.
Okay. Okay.
And again, they're all for different, very personal, sort of reasons and why. But there are some people that will come out here. I mean, we've got paperwork that we keep here in our office. Only 5 of us look at it. Just for safety reasons when people check in and whatnot. Some people are really weird
Mhm.
about that lately too. Is they're like, "Why do you want my ID?" I'm like, "Well, number one, I need to make sure that you're 18 and that you can be here, or if you're not, then you're with an adult that can make those decisions for you. Number
Right.
one. And number two, in the event that something happens to you here, I want to be able to have that and know who's here.
Hmm.
So people have gotten a little weird about that lately, which is interesting to me. But I mean, we've got records going back to 25 years that we've been here. And some people will say, oh, I was here back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you're not going to have my stuff. And then sure enough, I pull out a box from under the counter. It may have, a couple inches of dust on it, but it's still there. It's still there. I pull it out and they go,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, wow." And then they get really excited and they're like, and they say things like, "Well, when was the last time I was here?" And, you give them a year and a month maybe, and they go, "Wow, that was when I was doing this or I was working that job. And then this happened and I moved to this state." And it gives them that sense of connection and to know like, hey, I was here and I did do this, and they compare it to a time in their life and go through that little process amongst themselves, and then again they come back and they have that reconnection point. So it does come full circle, even for the people that don't have a good time the first time. There is quite a bit that comes back full circle later on.
Yeah, because there's something about it that sticks in their brain, like, that was actually pretty good now that I think about it. And I had a friend of mine tell me 10 or 15 years ago, he was at my house. We went out to the pool, clothes came off. I sat down in my favorite lounge chair and just exhaled, like, ah. And he looked at me and said, it's about the 50th time I've seen you sit in that chair or a chair with your clothes off. He goes, "I never see you more relaxed than when you first sit down." And I thought, you're right. That's exactly right. Because as we've talked about, all of the cares go away. Like now I can just, uh, again, no pun intended, strip it to the core, the bare bones of what life is all about. It takes all the other jazz away. It just makes life more fun and enjoyable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. There are people that, and I mean, I used to see it even when I was a kid, and I still see it now. People pull through the gate on a Friday afternoon and they forget about reality. And it's great to be able to provide that kind of environment for people, to give them that reset, give them that recharge. And then on Sunday morning, all those lulls come in, and the low hanging heads, not because they did anything wrong or they did anything bad. They just had a great weekend with some really good friends. But now it's this
Mhm.
overwhelming, oh, now I got to go back to work. I got to do all this, instead of, kind of being able to be carefree, footloose and fancy free for a while.
That's very true. The very terrific CYNDI TENDICK. She does it all in the world of nudism, naturism, clothes for a living for all the right reasons. Not only is she one of the managing partners for the Shangri La Ranch in Arizona, but she is the current president of the West Region for the American Association for Nude Recreation. And on next week's show, part 2 of my interview with CYNDI TENDICK. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 83 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist. Have a great clothes-free day.